Hey guys, Nichols here. Today we're gonna take a look at one of the most anticipated SH Figuarts figures of 2024. This is the SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Ichigo or Kamen Rider 1 from 2007's Kamen Rider The Next. Ah yeah! This figure was released in December 2024 for 9,900 yen as a Premium Bandai exclusive, well, what can you do? This figure is also the 100th SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU, which makes it kind of a commemorative or celebratory figure. Some of you may think that, it should have been a regular release. And it would have been better if this was a regular release, but at the same time, what this figure could be considered a little bit niche at this point. So maybe making it P Bandai kinda made sense. Kind of. So this design is from Kamen Rider The Next, a sequel to 2005's Kamen Rider The First. These movies were essentially a mid-2000s reimagining of the original Kamen Rider, so he sports this realistic design with a lot of detail. Shout out to Yutaka Izubuchi, the guy who designed this costume. He's also designed the monsters from Kamen Rider O's and Agito, as well as popular mobile suits from the Gundam series such as the New Gundam, the Sazabi, the Rigizi, the Alex Gundam, and the Camphor. So this design is honestly genius. Genius. And yes, this is the 100th SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU, which I think is a title this deserves. A lot of people argue that, it should have been Blade or it should have been Ryuki. But honestly, I think that this makes so much sense because the first ever SH Figuarts figures were Kamen Rider Ichigo, this guy, and Kamen Rider V3. So it makes a lot of sense to me that they celebrate the 100th SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU with this guy. And maybe we might see a V3 down the line, who knows? For the aesthetics, as you can see, this figure sports a darker color scheme compared to what we would have seen in Ichigo's Kamen Rider The First design. Because this is like essentially a dirtier version, a dirtier, more banged up, and older version of this. And in line with that design philosophy, he also has weathering on his helmet, like a bunch of scratches and like a little bit of rust even. So the green parts of this figure are generally quite dark. Now with good lighting, this green is actually quite visible, but like under normal lighting or like no lighting, it's really dark. If I remember correctly, Medicom Toys released a large figure of Ichigo The Next a long time ago, and they used a slightly brighter green. I think some people would have preferred a brighter green more, but I think this one's okay. This makes sense. I think overall the colors were very accurate to what we've seen in the movie, but I think the red on the scarf should have been a little bit duller, just a little bit. Like it might look a little dull on the camera, but it's actually really, really hot and vibrant in real life. But it's not bad. I'm still happy with what they went with here. Now as for his proportions, compared to previous SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU figures, this one feels a bit skinnier. I'm guessing the actor they scanned for this figure is skinnier than Seiji Takaiwa, who was, the basis of most SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU lead Kamen Rider figures. Well, Seiji Takaiwa is known to be quite thick, so I guess this makes sense. And for those who didn't know, for the SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU line, Bandai actually scans the bodies of the actors who portrayed these riders in their suits, because they want to get like an accurate proportion of the character. That's what the SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU line is mostly about, getting a highly accurate representation of the character. Now for size comparisons, here he is next to the old Kamen Rider The First Ichigo figure, which was released, from the earlier age of SHF. And we have the relatively modern Kamen Rider Ichigo from Shin Kamen Rider, which is Hideaki Anno's Kamen Rider. So comparing the aesthetics of all of them, as you can see, this new one has like this really improved realistic sculpt compared to this old one, which has like a skinnier anime aesthetic. And comparing these two modern representations of Ichigo's The Next version definitely has more detail, whereas the Shin version sports a cleaner look, but it has like some interesting details around it. Like it has like lots of rivets, and it has a more detailed belt. The Shin version has a more detailed belt than the next version, which is interesting. And for those who are wondering how he'd look like with Shin Ichigo's coat, it looks a bit big on him, but you can make it work if you pose him properly. For other size comparisons, here he is next to Kamen Rider the First Nigo and Kamen Rider 2+1 from Shin Kamen Rider. I also call him Nichigo because why not? Now here he is next to other SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU figures, Kamen Rider Next Phase, and Kamen Rider Den-O, who is Ichigo the Next's fellow 2007 rider. Now here he is next to some ladies. We got Momo ISF from Dan Da Dan, SHF also, and SHF Kamen Rider Majade. Now comparing him to another modernized classic superhero design, here he is next to Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And lastly, here he is next to the high-grade Rigi Z, a mobile suit designed by the same designer, Yutaka Izubuchi. Now for accessories and gimmicks, he does have a wired muffler. Both sections are wired, so you can move them, you can shape how you want them to look. You can even position the muffler to look like it's being waved to a certain direction. Now taking a look at the other things that come in this package, he does come with extra antennas. I believe they're the exact same antennas, they feel the same. And according to Google Lens, the manual doesn't really say that they're different, it just says spare antenna. They don't use a very soft plastic, but they're also not very dense. I would say they're around the middle, so I guess that's good. I don't think you should worry too much about breaking them, but still, please do be careful. They provided spares for a reason. Now the next thing to look at is this Hongo Takeshi head, portraying the actor quite well. I mean, these SH Figuarts human faces are never perfect, but in my opinion, this one's not bad. So basically this head comes in two pieces, the main head section and the lower hair section. Putting on the head is quite simple, just take off the helmet very carefully, you don't want to break the antennas. Just take it off carefully like that. And do take note that this helmet has its own hair, its own like lower hair. And when you take off the head, make sure the ball joint is still with the neck. Sometimes it does come off. Yeah, whenever that happens, just try again, I guess. And now you put in the lower hair piece of the Hongo head, and then you put the Hongo head. It can be a bit tough around the first time. And there you go. Wow. Look at that handsome man. Comparing to the Sosuke Ikematsu head that came with Shin Kamen Rider Ichigo, I think this one from Kamen Rider the Next looks a little better. Just my opinion. And in my opinion, Hongo the Next's face does look better than Shin Ichimonji's face. I also want to mention that his head can actually be divided into parts. We got like his back head, his faceplate, and his front hair. They don't provide another faceplate, an alternate faceplate, but maybe they plan to in a potential future release of Kamen Rider the First. As for his hands, by default he comes with a pair of open hands. He also comes with a pair of closed fists, clawing/grabbing hands, and karate chop hands. And while his own Cyclone motorcycle still hasn't been released as of recording, here's how he looks like with the Shin Cyclone, and it looks alright. Now for the articulation, it's generally quite standard, but there are some joints that were designed in an interesting way, in my opinion. So the head is essentially on 3 joints. The bottom of the neck has its own joint, which does wiggle, and the head itself is on 2 ball joints, which allows for chicken head movement and rotation. Just be careful so that his chin doesn't hit the collar of his jacket. I already talked about the muffler a while ago. It does move on wires and is very posable. He does have butterfly movement, which allows his shoulder to go forwards and backwards like that. It's very minimal. His arm will also rotate. There's also a joint attached to his butterfly joint that allows the shoulder to go even higher. So yeah, that's pretty cool, but honestly, I kind of wish that instead of giving us that, I think I would have preferred that instead of an up and down joint, they gave us like an extended butterfly movement with that joint. I think that would have been better. Whatever. Oh, and I also want to mention that his shoulder armor does not move, like it is fixed there, but honestly, it's not a problem. It's quite small, so it doesn't really get in the way. He also has a swivel underneath his shoulder. The elbow bends on 2 joints. And he also has rotation on his glove. So his glove, like the cut of his glove, is actually a rotation point. So that's cool. The wrist is on a hinge and will rotate on 2 points. He does have diaphragm movement and waist movement, which allows for a pretty good abdominal movement. I would say, and a bit of wiggling since the diaphragm and the waist joints seem to be ball joints. And there's also really good side-to-side movement. Really good side-to-side. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, and before I forget, I also want to mention that they hide his joint on the armpit. So you can raise his arm like that and you won't really see a joint. That's really cool. That's a really cool thing for Bandai to do. They should do that with more of their anime girl figures. He also does rotate on his waist. Like that. I also want to mention that the belt is separate from the body, but it is attached to like the lower flaps of his leather jacket. The lower flaps of the leather jacket will move when you try to wiggle the belt around. As for the legs, they go forwards, backwards pretty far actually. I would say that's pretty far. Spread out also really far. Will rotate under the hip. There's actually a little bit of wiggle there because I think that joint there is a ball joint, so there is a bit of wiggle. His knees will bend on 2 joints each, and there's actually a swivel joint here that allows for a bit of rotation. That's really cool. Like a little bit of like side to side on the knee. That's really nice. He does not have a swivel on his boot cut, but we don't need that, honestly. His foot will go a little bit forward, backward, bend on the toe like that. There is some ankle pivot, but he doesn't really have ankle rotation because of the way the boot is designed. In my opinion, there's really no need for that because they gave us rotation underneath his knee. I think that already serves that purpose. So yeah, the articulation, it's honestly good. I wish they could have given him better shoulder joints, but aside from that, excellent articulation. I believe you can pull off almost any pose you can imagine. Now for the conclusion, I love this figure because I think it's exactly what it's expected to be. It looks great, just has the right amount of weathering, but it also kind of feels it looks better on camera than in real life. But you know, that's not by a big margin anyway, so that's fine. Even though this is a weathered figure with, you know, and it's supposed to look old, it still looks very clean, and that's a good thing. They weathered it, but it looks clean enough for it to feel premium. And I love the silver rivets around this figure. It's like a nice touch. It would have been cool though if we got a few extras like an LED gimmick for the eyes and holding things hands just so we can make him hold random stuff for fun. And I also kind of wish it was a bit cheaper since it does feel skinnier than the usual SHINKOCCHOU SEIHOU, but the price tag still does align with how nice this figure is. Now, do I recommend this figure? I highly recommend this to fans of mid-thousands Kamen Rider reboot movies if you can get it for a decent price. Now, I just want to note that this figure is a Premium Bandai limited item, and it's very sought after. It's probably really hard to get now. I think in some cases you might have to pay like $120 or $180 for this. I was lucky enough to only get mine for like around $60 to $70 because I got mine directly from P Bandai, and to everyone who got this directly from P Bandai, you are lucky, like including me, because this is such a nice figure and it's gonna be really hard to get for a good price right now. If you can get this for $120, I think that should be okay, but try not to pay like $200 or above. I think that would be too much. And if you can't afford this figure, I think it's very possible that Bandai would release a Kamen Rider the first version of Ichigo. So basically, it's this figure but like with a brighter and cleaner color scheme and without like the weathering and stuff. So yeah, like if you can't afford this now, I think you could at least probably wait for the potential recolor of this figure. Now we just have to wait for the Cyclone unit to ship out, and I will be reviewing that when I get my hands on it. And hopefully we also get announcements for V3 and Nigo. So yeah guys, that's it for the review. I hope you had fun. I hope I helped you decide whether or not you want to try getting this figure. Like and subscribe if you appreciate my content, and you all have a good day.